Andrew Ross Sorkin of CNBC has got this piece out there talking about, here's what he writes. I think it was in the New York Times. The CEO's silence on the January 6th hearings. He's pissed off corporate America's not coming out and taking a stance on the January 6th hearings. Andrew here. I want to speak with you directly this morning, much as I did after the attack on the U.S. Capitol. Who wants to hear from him? Okay. After January 6th, corporations across this nation raced to put out news releases condemning the insurrection, as well as the Republican members of Congress who tried to overturn the election results. Many companies pledged to end or pause donating to these politicians. Fast forward to today. Whatever your politics, yesterday's testimony by a former White House aide about President Donald Trump's actions on January 6th was deeply disturbing. Whatever your politics, it had to be deeply disturbing to you, Glenn. Got it? And yet you will most likely hear only one thing from the business community in the coming days. Silence. Why? I've been spending the past several days at the Aspen Ideas Festival, asking chief executives and other leaders that very question. What I hear again and again is that the business community and perhaps the public at large has outrage, fatigue. But there is something else happening too. Those who do want to speak out are concerned about retaliation from political officials and a significant portion of the public in ways they weren't a year and a half ago. Goes on to talk about various polls that show Trump remains popular. In many cases, brace yourselves, more popular than even President Biden. Others fear being labeled woke. And he goes on to talk about DeSantis, and then he says, but here's my question for business leaders. After years of talking about moral courage, where is yours? It's unbelievable.
I don't even know where to start there, but I think, I think it's hilarious, like how he says, Trump's not just still popular, but even more popular than Joe Biden, as if Joe Biden is like the, Nero or like on Mount Rushmore. And so the idea that anyone can be more popular than him, let alone Trump, is something that's shocking. But this is actually something that, I've been looking at for a while now, is for decades, it was a staple of the liberal left that corporations have too much power in the United States. And the idea of opposing, especially the political power that corporations wield through things like donations and lobbyists, was foundational to all kinds of left liberal politics. And now suddenly, ever since I think you could really trace it back to George Floyd, but even kind of before that with a lot of LGBT issues and the like, what has happened is, as a result of Democrats becoming the party of the affluent, which is the dirty little secret of our politics, that Joe Biden didn't win because minorities rose up and voted for him in record number to eject the white nationalists from the presidency. Quite the opposite happened. Trump attracted more Latino voters and African-American voters, Asian voters than any Republican in a decade, whereas Biden won because affluent white suburbanites voted for him who had for a long time voted Republican. As affluent people become more and more liberal, corporations feel more and more comfortable espousing liberal political ideals, whereas they used to be steadfastly neutral. And seeing that, liberals are increasingly calling for corporations to throw their weight around when it comes to the democratic process. The way that they demanded that Disney, for example, get involved in the enactment of that law in Florida that was enacted by a democratically constituted state legislature and then signed into law by the democratically elected governor about what, second graders and under can be taught about gender ideology, demanding that Disney denounce this. This is a constant refrain now that corporations, which we always wanted to make sure their corporate power was confined to just doing what was in their business self-interest, are now suddenly supposed to be ideological and partisan actors on the side of one side. That's incredibly dangerous. That's called, you could call it like the literal definition of fascism, when corporate and state powers start to create a union, but at the very least, that's called oligarchy. And yet there's unabashedly an increasing desire on the part of the liberal left for corporations to become heavily involved political actors in a way that's obviously very dangerous.
Yeah, what are we going to have? We're going to go down the street and it's going to be all the red corporations and the blue corporations, and you got to go in depending on what your number says on your wrist, or your color of your shirt says. The one of the stories that Ben was talking about yesterday related to this UK bank, this Halifax bank, which is doing exactly what Aaron Ross Sorkin wants them to do. They tweeted out some photo showing an employee wearing, her name tag, and it said, pronouns she, her, hers. And it was roundly mocked online, that this bank is bragging about how it mandates pronouns on its employees' name tags. And in response to the mocking, the bank tweets out in response. They doubled down and tweeted out, "We strive for inclusion, equity, and quite simply in doing what's right. If you disagree with our values, you're welcome to close your account." A social media spokesperson identified as Andy decided to tell their bankers. I mean, so basically, I can't keep my money at your bank if I think your name tags are stupid. This is our future.
This is. I think this touches a little bit on what we were describing earlier about this ability of the Supreme Court justices Ginsburg and Scalia, now Sotomayor and Thomas, to maintain genuine friendships, respectful, even kind of affectionate interactions with one another across ideological divides, which used to be very normal and very common. And now the idea is that if you have an ideological difference with somebody, especially liberals believe this, that if someone supports Donald Trump or someone supports the conservative movement, they're not just misguided politically, they're bad people, they're racist, they're white nationalists, they're all those other things, such that maintaining any interaction with them is itself immoral. And there's been op-eds even demanding that people renounce their own families if their families, are found to be supporters of Donald Trump or the conservative movement or hold these certain views. And the reason that's so dangerous is because that does generate this balkanization of society. You had the kind of like pillow companies where there were two pillow companies, one that was supposed to be on the left and one that was supposed to be on the right. So now where we buy our pillows is supposed to be determined by, there's the red pillow store and the blue pillow store. This is begging for a kind of fracturing of our society that is remarkably inflammatory and volatile. And I'm amazed that people want to flirt with that.
Yeah, I don't know what, registered independents like me, and I think you, what are we supposed to do? Where do we go? What, are there going to be like a little line of purple stores like down the middle where we can shop and keep our money and so on? All right, last question, because I've teased it. President Biden, speaking over in Spain, decided to talk about, in response to questions, the fact that 85% of the U.S. public thinks the country's going in the wrong direction. And the question that was asked to him was, how do you explain to these people who feel the country's going in the wrong direction, including some of the leaders you've been meeting with this week, part of the G7, who think that when you put all of this together, it amounts to an America that's going backward? His response was, they do not think that. They don't think that. You haven't found one person, one world leader to say America's going backward. America's better positioned to lead the world than we ever have been. We have the strongest economy in the world. Our inflation rates are lower than other nations in the world. And then he goes on to say the one thing that's been destabilizing is the outrageous behavior of the Supreme Court on Roe v. Wade. That's the thing, Glenn. Your thoughts on it in the minute we have left.
I mean, look, if Democrats want to continue to live in this very delusional, insular bubble where the only information they get, the only things they hear are things that they get from progressive activists and progressive media employees on Twitter, increasingly becoming the same thing, they can do that. And they're going to march right into complete destruction in November. All polling data shows that for very good reason, Americans feel suffocated economically. And if your strategy is really going to be to send politicians and rich celebrities out to tell them that that's unwarranted or that they need to suffer for good cause, good luck with that. But I think that they're just digging their own grave with it.
4th of July is just around the corner. And if you're looking for the perfect cuts to put on the grill this year, look no further. Good Ranchers is the place to get American beef, chicken, and seafood. They sell 100% American meat and they ship it straight to your door. And right now, Good Ranchers is putting the free in freedom with 2 free prime ribeyes with every order that uses my code, Megyn. Other places would charge you well over 50, even $60 a steak to get ribeyes like these, but Good Ranchers is giving them to you for free when you go to goodranchers.com/Megyn. They're out of their ranching minds, but take advantage of it. This is not the time to wait. Know that you got to claim your ribeyes today because they could run out. It's a limited stock item. First come, first serve. And you want to be first when it comes to Good Ranchers. They deliver the best of American farms and ranches right to your door. Make sure you take time today. Right now, go to goodranchers.com/Megyn or use my code MEGYN at checkout to get your 2 free 18-ounce ribeyes. Start the summer off right with Good Ranchers. American meat delivered. Hey, thanks so much for watching. If you like what you just saw, hit the subscribe button for more clips and full episodes.